Hi, this is Joe Kelty in CTE 5660, and this is my summary presentation of my project-based lesson. So, okay, look like here we go. So one of the first things I learned was that it's really important to promote a positive learning environment with our students and within our classroom. And so a question we need to ask ourselves as instructors is, how did we demonstrate mutual respect for, rapport with, and responsiveness to students that have varied needs, varied backgrounds, and how did we challenge students to engage in learning? And that's a mouthful. That's a lot of things to do, but it's exactly the type of thing that we need to consider when we're doing lesson plans, when we're thinking up, what kind of a project-based lesson am I going to do? And then as I'm engaging with the students, how do I demonstrate mutual respect? Well, one of the things that is naturally, very effective is providing encouraging feedback. When a student gives some verbal cues in class, you try your best to encourage them and say, oh, thank you so much for giving your input. If they've said something correct, then you encourage them. That's a really good response. If they didn't say something quite correct, then you say, you dive into it a little bit. Say, that's an interesting response. Now, what do you think about this? Or do you think it's more like that? And help them to have a better response so that then you can encourage them and say, now that's exactly what we're talking about. How do you develop rapport? Well, that's going to help you develop rapport. I think we also learned in this class that the more you can participate in student society, going to events, going to sports or plays or whatever it is that you can do with the students in the community of students and faculty, the more rapport you're going to have with your students, the more trust you're going to develop, and they're going to become more responsive to you. And you're also going to learn about the students. The more you know about their needs, about their cultural upbringing, about their backgrounds, the better you're going to be able to be effective in your teaching, because we'll learn through this process that different students learn better in different environments and with different types of prompts or different types of learning strategies. So that's the importance of promoting a positive learning environment. And the students need to be having fun. They need to be engaged. They need to be motivated. So all of these things are part of that learning environment. The next thing in my summary is how important it is to engage students in learning and engaging them in critical thinking. So here's the slide. Explain how your instruction engaged students in developing, in my case, business-related concepts, understanding, technical skills, and problem-solving strategies. So just teaching facts, just doing memorization isn't, critical thinking. So as we develop concepts and understanding, we can introduce vocabulary, we can introduce some general concepts. And so, for example, in my class and in my project-based lesson, I tried to do a three-phase, three different class lessons that built upon each other. And in the first one, we talked about, what do we know about ourselves? What are the skills that we have, the personality traits that we have, and how do they relate to business? For example, we talked about some classic career paths that people could take: a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer. What skill sets and what personality traits are a perfect fit for that type of a career? And we discussed that. We got these concepts going, this understanding, and then we said, now, do you have any of those personality traits? What are your personality traits? And I gave a list of, here are some common personality traits. Which ones do you think fit you? Here's some common skills that people might have. What fits you? And then we teamed up the students so that they could talk to another student and say, here's what I've always noticed about you. I think you have the following personality traits. I think you have the following skill sets. And then we asked the students, were you surprised by what other people thought you had, because in some cases you might say, oh, you really think I have that skill or that personality? I never thought that about myself. And so with a better understanding and a better concept of who we are and what skills we have, maybe we have a better understanding of what career path we might want to choose. And so then we took that information and we said, now let's apply some technical skills. And I showed them the North Carolina Career Clusters web page and all the information that you could use to research different career clusters, pathways. And now that we were conceptually having an idea what we looked like, in a possible career fit, we had a better idea of where to take the technology and what to research. And then finally, my third class, my third lesson, we actually went online with our computers. We went to a job search website and we said, think about what you've learned thus far. Now go find a real job. And when you find a job that you think you might like to do, compare the requirements of that job to the skill set and the experiences and the personality traits that you have. Are you a good fit? And if you're not a good fit yet because you're still a student, what are things that you could work on to become a better fit? Well, you could stay in school, you could get a certain degree, you could get internships, you could take other seminars. There's a lot of things that you could do. You could, and so that was the idea, to say it's not just facts, it's critical learning and critical thinking and problem-solving strategies, and engaging the students and pushing them into areas where they may be a little uncomfortable at first, but then later they'll realize they actually learned something. So that was just a really good example of what I've learned in this class. This one here, encouraging deeper student learning through instruction. It says, we should be thinking about how do we elicit and build on student responses to promote thinking and to develop business-related concepts, understanding, technical skills, and problem-solving strategies. Well, I think in my previous kind of long-winded discussion, I touched on this. Once you've, for example, thought about what skill sets are and what personality traits are, then you have a deeper learning push and engagement to say, now what are yours? And then a deeper still, what other career paths are out there that might be a great fit for somebody with those skills and those personalities? And where does that fit within the 16 career clusters? And within a career cluster, what pathway, what career might be a good fit for you based on that? And where can you find jobs like that? And how do they match up? And so that's the whole idea, is deeper student learning so they can apply these critical skills and apply these problem-solving strategies and affect their lives in a positive way. So very good example of how we're learning in this class to enhance learning in our students. Another thing is that we should always be, as instructors, we should always be analyzing our teaching process. And so here's the bullet. We should be thinking about what changes would we make to our instruction approach. Our approach for the whole class, our approach for students who need greater support, or students who need greater challenges. And how can we better support student learning as the central focus? Are there any missed opportunities? And so every time we teach a class, every time we finish a semester, we should analyze and go back and say, what could I have done better? How could I have fine-tuned my lesson plan? I think that one thing, is how can I find or make more time to spend with each student based on their interactions in class? How can I build on what they seem to be interested in? If they're asking something in class, I think that's a key opportunity that we can say, hey, I noticed that you brought this up in class. Would you like to spend some more time talking about that? Would you like to sit down next to me with the computer? We could research it together, things like that. Or if they need an additional challenge, that's one way to say, I noticed sometimes the lessons I give you, you don't seem overly challenged by them. Would you like something that's more challenging? I could help you come up with a plan to go a little further and use your skills. Or in the other direction, you could say, hey, I noticed that if you're, let's say they're a person that's challenged with the English language, maybe you need some additional help. It seems like maybe you're not following me in class because maybe I talk too fast. And I could probably give you some language helps so that you can read in advance and know what we're going to talk about that day and practice some of the vocabulary that we're using. Just as examples of each student has a different process there or a different teaching strategy that they're going to respond to best. And the more that we can mix up our teaching to use different strategies, the more students that we're going to benefit. Okay, what else do we have? What's the role that EdTPA played in my learning in this class? Well, it played a big role, naturally. The preparation of my project-based lesson, my classroom instruction delivery, the assessment of my students. For that matter, the slides that I'm showing here, they may seem familiar because I took them from task 2, the EdTPA task 2 instruction commentary. It's very well thought out. It's a very useful approach to what I call continuous improvement in teachers and in their teaching. Continuous improvement, it's exactly what we talked about on the last slide. Always be trying to get better, always be trying to, not only as a person and as an instructor, but in my delivery of class lessons and in my delivery of instruction. How can I become better? Sometimes based on my weaknesses or my strengths, and sometimes based on my students and their responses to teaching. And so EdTPA, just really an excellent, well thought out and well considered approach to this continuous improvement concept for instructors, which will naturally benefit students and benefit our communities. Okay, well, that's my summary presentation, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you, and have a great day.